Hi, my name is Melissa Trudiger and I'm one of the writers from the APA's In Motion magazine. I'm here with APA honoured member and sports and exercise physiotherapist plus researcher at Trobe University, Professor Kay Crossley. And we're at the Australian Sports Commission and Australian Institute of Sport Women in Sports Congress. It's a mouthful.
It is a mouthful.
Kay, tell me about yourself and why you're here.
Thank you. So I'm a physiotherapist. I'm a professor at La Trobe University and I'm the director of the La Trobe Sport and Exercise Medicine Research Centre. So all of our research focuses on preventing and managing sports-related injuries and musculoskeletal conditions. And in recent times, we've had a real focus on women in sport, so trying to prevent injuries for female, women and girl athletes, optimising rehab for them. This Women in Sport Congress is a really important part of our sort of curriculum, if you like. It happens every second year, and it's a really great opportunity for us to share the work we're doing, but also learn from experts around the world.
Tell me about the FAIR consensus and what it is and why we need it.
So the International Olympic Committee, or the IOC, run these consensus meetings, and they do them in lots of different topics relevant to sports injuries. And consensus meetings are usually run when we don't have enough evidence to have a clinical practice guideline, for example. So we don't have enough evidence to say this is exactly what we should be doing for people, but we have enough perhaps evidence from expertise, people who work in the field, to say, look, this is what we should be doing. So a few years ago, we applied to do the FAIR consensus, and we received some funding from the IOC to do it. So we started nearly 3 years ago, and so the idea behind the consensus, so FAIR stands for female, women and girl, is the F, A, athlete, I for injury, and R is part of prevention. So we really wanted to come up with what are some recommendations that we can put out to the world around injury prevention for female, women and girl athletes, all sports, all ages, all abilities.
What did it involve?
It involved a lot. First off, we need to do the evidence review, so we wanted to know what was the evidence. So we did 5 systematic reviews looking at what was the evidence for injury prevention and what are the risk factors for injuries in female, women and girl athletes. And we looked at those for lower extremity, upper extremity, concussion, and what we ended up calling Spine Plus, which is spine, pelvis, trunk, anything sort of down the centre of the body. And so we did 5 systematic reviews. We also undertook a scoping review, which aimed to look at how best to disseminate and implement injury prevention for female, women and girls. And this was the first consensus that had actually considered dissemination, implementation in addition to the evidence for the interventions. And we also undertook an original data project, which is also rare in consensus meetings. So we did a concept mapping, which is a mixed method study to get expert opinion on what is the sex and gender specific factors related to injury prevention for female, women and girls. So that was the first step. That took quite some time. We recruited 109 people from around the world. We had 6 continents. Lots of people represented that were not only researchers, but also athletes, coaches, practitioners in the field. And they undertook the reviews with us. We then, from those reviews, our author teams then came up with a number of recommendations. So what did the evidence tell us? What should we be doing? We ended up with over 100 of those recommendations. Then we had a consensus meeting, and so the meeting is in person at Lausanne at the IOC headquarters there. And we had a 2-round voting process where we took the evidence, but we also took all of the expert opinions and we condensed some of the recommendations, we expanded some of the recommendations, and we ended up with 56 recommendations that we have now published and put out into the world.
Broadly speaking, what are those key recommendations?
Yeah, so there's 56. So the 3 sort of key take home for me is that a sport-specific sort of exercise-based warm-up type activity can reduce injuries for all athletes, all sports, all levels. And we really should be doing that, or we should be teaching our athletes to do that, or teaching our coaches to teach our athletes to do that for every training session and every match. And ideally we'd be doing that teaching people early so that people are establishing habits that they can keep lifelong. And if we do that, we will be able to prevent injuries. So that's the first piece. The second piece is that we need to think about the environment in which athletes are trying to train and compete, and really providing the female women and girls with the same opportunities in terms of resources. So those might be access to fields, so don't always have the male men and boy athletes on the best fields and have the female women and girl athletes on the rubbish fields. It might be access to uniforms. It might be access to weight rooms or other training facilities. So making sure that female women and girls have equitable access to the resources. It also means equitable access to staffing. So we know that often female women and girls are working with, whether it be physios or other health professionals or coaches that are perhaps less experienced or have less resources themselves. They're paid less well perhaps, or have less amount of time to work with the female women and girl athletes. And then lastly, funding. So really trying to make sure that the environment that the women and girls are working in is at least equitable to what we're seeing for the male men and boys. And the last really important key takeaway is that we need to create safe spaces for our female women and girl athletes. So spaces where they can talk about things like interpersonal violence, but also places where they can talk about and where they can report and where they can be listened to for things like body shaming, gender norms, those sorts of things as well. And so really the responsibility beyond just the physical injury prevention programs, but the entire environment which the female women and girls are participating in.
How will this impact physiotherapists? What's the role of physios in this whole process?
So physiotherapists often play a really key role in sporting teams. So they might be the physiotherapist for the team. That might be at a community level, it might be at a state level, it might even be at a national level. So they hold really respected positions within all of those environments. You know, the coaching community and the sporting community as a whole really looks to physiotherapists as experts in the field. So we have a great opportunity to speak to everyone involved in athlete care and to the athletes themselves and say, this is what we should be doing to not only protect you from injuries such as the warm-up interventions, but also to creating the safe spaces and advocating for female women and girls to have the equitable access to the resources. So using our voices, but also teaching and training people the importance of injury prevention.
Okay, great. Kay, I'd love to thank you for taking the time to chat with me and about your research.
Thank you so much.